Hey there! Please, Mrs. Robinson. Today we're going to have a look at the Graduate. The Waterman Graduate. And not just any graduate, the Waterman Graduate. And the Graduate was a pen that was in the lineup of Waterman for quite a long time. But then it was kind of taken out, disappeared, and now it's back. I was at Waterman in The Hague, and the very knowledgeable Paul there said, yeah, it's a cute pen. Take one, review it, and then give it away for us. So this is not right now. I'm not going to give it away right now, as Ethan and I will do a serious nibbage on this. But in that episode of Serious Nibbage, we will give it away, and you can win this pen. But before we do that, let's first have a look at the pen, see what it's all about, etc. This pen came without a box. I don't know if it usually comes without a box, but it's an entry-level Waterman. Waterman, of course, is a brand that has been around for a long time, and I think a lot of us will know the story of Waterman, Mr. Waterman, who was selling, I think it was insurance or something, and one of his what do you call that, clients had to sign a contract, and then he accidentally spilled ink, went back to draw up a new contract. That time it was handwritten. When he came back, the client was gone, and he decided to have to come up with a more reliable pen system, and according to legend, he invented the fountain pen as we know it. Now, there are other stories too that say that he was not the first, and blah 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 blah, but for the record, you know, I don't know either, but I like the idea, and like it or not, Waterman has been around for a long time. The vintage pens are something else from the modern pens, but I do think some of my first serious fountain pens were Watermans, and I think they are reliable pens that typically write well. So that's very nice, and the Graduate is a very interesting model. This can be had for 24 euros, and that's, well, it's not a preppy for dollars, but it's very affordable. And I like that because that means that you can get one, you gift it, or you know, whatever, people who are not sure whether fountain pen is for them. You get everything a fountain pen offers for 24 euros, and it's all metal too. There is a plastic section, but barrel, cap, it's all metal, so it's a robust pen. I nearly died. Sorry. I'm going to cover past the pen. I'll tell you what I like about it, what I don't like about it. I'm going to do a writing sample. Start with a finial right there. Simple, reflective, black ring. We have the clip. Waterman has those slits in the clip, and they've had it for quite a while. You have the cap. The cap is marked a Waterman right there, Waterman. And then you have the barrel, and the barrel kind of tapers down slowly till the end, and then again a very reflective end cap. So clearly a very metallic look they went for, and for the record, for those of you who find that interesting, there's also a matching ballpoint if you want to gift someone a set or something. The cap pops off, simple chrome colored nib. I have seen those types of nibs before on Watermans. This is a fine. It's possible they are only available in fine, I'm not exactly sure, but if anything it's probably fine and medium, probably not broad. That's usually what happens with these kinds of pens. Section, simple, plastic, featureless. It has a little bit of texture to it, so it's not very slippery, I like that. And then at the back, of course, you have the feed. And the nib, simple design, it just says Waterman. It has the Waterman logo in the hexagonal, is that a hexagon? I thought it was a hexagon. So six-cornered figure. People are going to point out to me whether I was right or wrong, I'm sure. And it has the F for fine. Simple cartridge converter pen. I put in a Waterman converter, but you can also use it with cartridges, which again is kind of a nice thing if you have people who are looking to get into fountain pens and not sure whether it's something for them. Just put in cartridges and you should be fine. Okay, what about the pen? Well, decent size, I would say. Nothing super fancy, but it's not an ultra small pen actually, which is nice. The clip works well, nice and springy. and if you want, you can post this pen very securely, and you get a nicely sized pen. And what I liked about this is that even though it is all metal, it's actually not, someone is making enormous amounts of noise there, it's actually not top heavy when you post it, which is nice, because a lot of metal pens of course have the tendency to be very heavy, especially when you post them. But this, it is surprisingly light, so I do like that. And also the cap actually closes very securely. It's a nice snap mechanism, and I didn't, this may be a pet peeve, I don't know if other people have that, but it doesn't really seem to rotate a lot. Of course now I'm unscrewing it, but sometimes when you have these snap caps, then the barrel rotates a lot, and this is really quite secure. So I really like that. Now, what we really want to know is, how does it write? Well, this fine nib is no joke, it's definitely fine, so don't expect something that's fine that's kind of like a medium. No, this really is a fine. As a fine, it does have a little bit of feedback as you write, but I did find this to be a reliable writer. It writes well, it writes consistently, and I haven't really had any issues with it. And I think that goes for Waterman pens in general, especially in the sort of the lower or middle segments. Same thing as for Parker. You are probably not going to buy a pen that has the most stellar design or materials or finish, but they will write. So I think that especially for beginners, they're very nice brands. And if you're not a beginner but you just want a pen that's super reliable, more so reliable than fancy looking, then Parker and Waterman are excellent brands. And that goes for this model too. Simple, nice, and it works. Final thing I wanted to say was, of course, at that price, 24 euros, that's hard to beat. I mean, that is a significantly affordable pen, given how extreme pen prices can be. You're buying something that's reliable, and it's even metal, so it's not going to be fragile plastic. It's a solid metal pen, bar, of course, the section. Anything I really don't like about it? Well, the one thing that I think I have commented on that before, these particular Waterman sections feel very hard. It's weird, it's kind of hard to explain, because of course it's plastic. Plastic typically is hard, but it's not rubberized or anything. It's really hard. I find it a little harsh on the fingers, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. What I do like is that slight texture they put in there, which doesn't make it slippery as you write. So I like that. And apart from that, I don't think there's much to dislike. It's a simple pen. You know you're buying a simple pen, but it does everything it's supposed to do. Cartridge converter, put a cartridge in, put a second one in the back, it fits, it works, it ticks all the boxes. It's a workhorse, and sometimes those are very nice to have around. So, a very kind thank you again to Paul for giving me this pen. As I said, in due course it will be given away. If you want to see more, on the website sbrebrown.com will be dimensions of the pen as well as high resolution pictures. What we need to do now is see a writing sample. That's coming up next. Hope this was useful so far, and I'm glad to see you later. Bye bye. Okay, here we go with Shiny McShine, the pen. In other words, the Waterman Graduate. The nib is fine, and the ink is that new Mont Blanc Ultra Black. I ran out of space, so I'm just gonna make a dash of black there. You're probably going to hear quite some feedback from this. Bear in mind, it is a fine nib, and the camera microphone tends to really pick up that nib noise, but it is a fine nib, and there is definitely feedback. I would not go so far as to call this really scratchy, but nevertheless, it's definitely something that gives a bit of feedback. Okay, fine nib, Rhodia paper, not the wettest writing experience, but you can see it's definitely not a super dry nib. Line variation. There is some to be had. You can also see some railroading there, but you know, can we do reverse writing? It's reasonably smooth. You can see that the pen seems to run dry a little bit when you do that, but you can go from, I suppose, a fine to an extra fine. That's all there's to it. I kindly thank Paul at Ackerman for supplying this pen for review and for supporting the idea of giving it away. So keep an eye out for the giveaway. Hope this was useful so far, and I'll gladly see you later. Bye bye.